If you react to random foods and smells or stress with things like hives or headaches or brain fog, and your list of safe foods keeps shrinking, it might not be in your head, but it's also not the food. Here's what may actually be happening. Most people think histamine intolerance is a food allergy or a sensitivity. It's not. It's a systems overload. Histamine isn't just an allergy chemical. It's a messenger that links together multiple systems, our gut, our brain, our immune system network. And when that communication gets jammed, your tolerance can drop overnight. Think of it this way. You have two drains in your system, one that clears histamine from foods and the other that clears it from your cells. But when stress or gut microbes or nutrient gaps clog those drains, the sink overflows. That's why one day you can eat an avocado or chocolate and feel fine, and the next day they set off chaos that is unmistakable. It's not the food changing, it's your clearance capacity. I'm Dr. Kenny, root cause health detective and IFM certified functional medicine practitioner, and I map the crosstalk between gut, hormones, mitochondria, and more every week in practice. And the patterns repeat over and over again, especially when it comes to histamine intolerance. So in this video, I'm showing you the hidden circuit behind histamine intolerance, how to spot which drain might be backed up, and the first few steps you can take to start clearing it so that you can stop living on antihistamines and endless food restrictions that keep piling up. Some of my most frustrated and gaslit patients come from years of being told that everything's fine and it might just be in their head. But if you still don't feel like yourself, despite normal conventional labs, hit that like button if you'd like more material like this, because you're not crazy, your system's on overload, and conventionally, we just don't test for it yet. So let's dive into the two drains first. For the first one, we have DAO. That stands for diamine oxidase. This is an enzyme that's made in your gut, and it breaks down histamine from food before it enters into your bloodstream. Think of it as your first line of defense from histamine overload. HNMT stands for histamine N-methyltransferase. This enzyme works inside your cells to clear histamine that's produced internally and part of our normal immune system response. Your gut handles the external histamine, the HMNT handles the internal histamine. When either drain clogs, histamine has the chance to accumulate. That's when symptoms show up. Flushing, hives, headache, brain fog, digestive discomfort, the list goes on. Now here's where we get into the systemic ripple effect. This isn't just a gut story or a cell story, it's a systems story. Histamine sits at the crossroads of energy, stress, and immunity at a very broad sense. First of all, your gut microbiome, certain bacteria like Morganella, Klebsiella, and even some strains of Lactobacillus produce histamine. Others like Bifidobacterium infantis help to break it down. When dysbiosis or gut imbalances happen, you get more histamine production and less clearance at the gut level. It's independent of what you eat. Second is chronic stress. When your HPA axis is overdriven, this is the communication center between your brain, your adrenals, and it coordinates everything from immune resilience to stress tolerance. Your body releases corticotropin-releasing hormone, or CRH. This directly stimulates mast cells, and mast cells are the immune cells that have the potential to dump histamine into your system. At that same time, low cortisol states can reduce the expression of DAO, the enzyme that breaks it down. So stress both can increase histamine and weaken your clearance at the same time. And we're not just talking about emotional stress. We're also talking about hidden stressors, things that activate stress chemistry beyond just our perceived emotional stress. And third is mitochondrial stress. Histamine signaling affects mitochondria by disrupting their communication signals, and it creates oxidative stress. That oxidative stress, like the browning of an apple when it's left out into air, happens in our bodies as well. But that alone downregulates HNMT, and so it depletes the resources that are needed to function properly to clear it. It's a feedback loop. A study published in 2023 showed that chronic stress triggers mast cell activation, and it does this through that CRH signaling pathway that we just talked about. This means that your nervous system directly influences how much histamine your immune cells release at any given time. So practically speaking, if you're dealing with chronic stress, whether perceived or not, poor sleep or nervous system dysregulation, you're priming your mast cells to overreact, even to foods that you used to tolerate, and that's what makes it so challenging to navigate sometimes. Calming your nervous system, therefore, is not optional. It's part of the foundational treatment. If you're liking the content of this video, I've pulled together some of the studies that I used in this video into a research summary. It includes the citations and short, digestible paragraphs for you to refer to or even bring into your clinicians or your healthcare practitioners. It's free and it's linked below in the description as well as the pinned comment. So check it out if that's something that interests you. So let's talk testing. Instead of blanket lab panels, we use pattern-based testing. First of all, it's important to get insight into what's going on in the gut. If some of those organisms are overgrown or undergrown that play a role in the histamine creation or breakdown, any one of those can play a major role in your experience. Second is organic acids testing. This is one of my favorites. It's a urine test that shows things like B vitamin and methylation status, or the burden of oxidative stress on our cells. It also will show things like microbial byproducts that may be affecting both drains, including things like mold toxins. And third is around methylation and glutathione. If you're not familiar with these are two important supplies that keep the gears grinding in most of our cellular processes. Methylation can be looked at in multiple ways, but homocysteine and methylmalonic acid are labs that bridge the conventional and functional space, so that may be a great place to start. These labs give insight into how well these two important functions are supporting HNMT. And fourth is one of my favorite tests to also start with that gives us insight into immune resilience and stress resilience. This is a hormone panel that goes into cortisol rhythms, not just a single blood test for cortisol. This helps us to plot the strength of your HPA axis, or the way that your master control center is coordinating everything when it comes to immune strength and stress resilience. You can see how there's different angles that we can approach histamine intolerance, and we're mapping out the circuitry and the interconnectedness because nothing happens in isolation, especially in the lens of functional medicine. So now you might be understanding the big picture that it's not the food's fault. Yes, some foods have higher histamine content, but it's more about what our systems are doing and how they're functioning on a spectrum of ideal function to dysfunction that guides symptoms of histamine intolerance. And just an additional plug for an organic acids test, because it's one of my favorite, it gives us insight into multiple angles at once. It tests roadblocks that occur in some of our nutrient statuses, like the B vitamins. They are cofactors for DAO and HNMT. It also shows oxidative stress markers, as well as whether or not your mitochondria are under strain. And then it also will give insight into dysbiosis and microbial metabolites. So when I see a combination of, let's say, B vitamin markers that are flagged, as well as elevated oxidative stress and fungal or bacterial overgrowth, I know that both drains are compromised. It's one of the tools that I like to use to read patterns, not only for my complex cases, but also my regular patients on their checkup visits every year. So here's the big takeaway. Histamine intolerance isn't just about a food list. It's a signal and system imbalance. Relief comes from restoring your system communication and resilience, not just restriction, especially restriction for life. When you support the two drains, the DAO in the gut and the HNMT in the cells, and you can calm the triggers driving the overload. Your threshold slowly starts to rise. You don't heal histamine intolerance with avoidance alone. You heal it by improving the communication and the efficiency between the gut, the immune system, and your energy systems at the cellular level. So here's a few questions that come up regularly. First is, do I need to stay on a low histamine diet forever? My general answer, again, nothing black and white, but is no. The diet is a detective tool, and it helps to lower balance temporarily while we're healing and restoring ideal immune and stress resilience. It's not a life sentence. Use it for a few weeks usually to lower the load while you're rebuilding. It's a case-by-case basis. Second is, can I just take DAO supplements? In general, supplements can help in the short term. I always think them as strategic levers to pull and to help us tip the scales in one direction versus the other, especially if you're going to be taking them with meals. But they don't fix the root cause still. They're not addressing that gut inflammation or the dysbiosis or nutrient gaps or stress overload that's actually driving histamine intolerance to begin with. And third is, what if I've tried everything and nothing works? That's when we look at the deeper layers. Mold toxin exposure, mast cell activation syndrome, or MCAS, which is complex immune dysregulation version of histamine intolerance. Testing helps to clarify that, and there's many other root causes that can be driving this overimmune activation. So if histamine intolerance is part of your story, then there's a good chance that your mitochondria are struggling too. So click on the next video now if you want to learn how to get your cellular engines firing again. I'm Dr. Kenny, Root Cause Health Detective. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.